The Chinese Communist Party's Belt and Road Initiative continues to face criticism, with accusations of creating debt traps that burden partner countries with heavy debt. These projects are also damaging the environment, causing pollution and resulting in poor construction quality. Recently, countries along the Belt and Road route have been holding Chinese state-owned enterprises accountable, demanding compensation at various levels, from governments to local communities. In February this year, a large-scale toxic spill occurred at a mine in Zambia. Local residents affected by the spill demanded that China Non-Ferrous Metal Mining Group, a Chinese state-owned enterprise operating the mine, pay $420 million in compensation. Is managed by Sinometal's Leach, Zambia, a subsidiary of China Non-Ferrous Metal Mining Group. China Metallurgical Group Corporation, CMC, also known as MCC, is a major Chinese state-owned enterprise. It operates domestic and international metallurgical engineering, natural resource development, paper production, technology equipment, and real estate businesses. The company's headquarters are in Beijing. In December 2015, China's State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission, SASAC, announced that MCC Group would be merged into China Minmetals Corporation, becoming a wholly owned subsidiary of the company. Bloomberg reported on September 1st that according to the claims documents they obtained, two different groups recently sent claim letters to MCC's Zambian subsidiary. This information has been confirmed by relevant law firms. The incident occurred on February 18th, near Kitwe, Zambia's second-largest city. A tailings dam burst, releasing approximately 1.5 million tons of toxic waste into the Kafue River. This caused the death of fish over a 100-kilometer stretch, and local water supplies were suspended. The acidic mine waste that leaked contained highly toxic heavy metals, making it one of the most severe environmental disasters of its kind globally. A few days later, another Chinese-owned mine in the same area experienced a similar acid waste leak, which led to the death of a worker who fell into the acidic substance. Authorities also discovered that the mine continued operations after being instructed to halt, leading to the arrest of two Chinese managers. The law firm Melissa & Partners sent a claim letter demanding that MCC immediately pay $220 million in emergency compensation to help relocate 47 households in the nearby Kalusale community. According to the documents, the funds would also cover health screenings, independent medical tests, treatment, and livelihood restoration. Another claim letter from Malambo & Co. law firm, representing several residents of Kalusale and other Zambians affected by the spill, demands an immediate payment of $200 million to establish an emergency fund for their clients. A spokesperson for MCC Group stated that the company has received the claim letters and has forwarded them to its legal department. Several embassies have warned their citizens about the presence of dangerous and carcinogenic substances in the local environment. Due to health risks, they have advised avoiding areas near the mine. The Kafue River, which runs through Zambia for over 1,500 kilometers, is a key water source for about 60% of Zambia's 20 million people. The river is vital for fishing, agricultural irrigation, and industrial use. Additionally, it provides drinking water for about 5 million people, including those in the capital, Lusaka. Furthermore, South African environmental company Illicit Environmental has accused Sinometals of severely underestimating the scale of the spill and terminating the investigation contract prematurely. Sinometals had hired Illicit to investigate the incident. Illicit collected over 3,500 samples over 2 months, finding dangerously high levels of cyanide, arsenic, lead, and cadmium, with the actual leaked amount being at least 30 times what Sinometals had acknowledged. The long-term health risks to residents include organ damage, deformities, and cancer. Illicit stated that it submitted a preliminary report to MCC, indicating the severity of the pollution, but was terminated the day before the final report was due. MCC, in a statement to the Associated Press, questioned the accuracy of Illicit's data, claiming the contract was terminated because of a breach of agreement and that the Zambian government is looking for new partners to continue the investigation. Illicit has warned that approximately 900,000 cubic meters of toxic waste remain in the area. Without proper remediation, residents and the ecosystem will continue to face risks for decades. The full report has not yet been made public. Zambia is one of the world's top 10 copper producers, and Chinese state-owned enterprises dominate the local copper mining industry. With the rising demand for electric vehicles and batteries, Zambia aims to produce 3 million tons of copper annually by 2031. While these minerals are crucial to the economies of the countries involved, large-scale mining operations by Chinese companies in resource-rich African regions, including Zambia's neighboring countries, the DRC and Zimbabwe, are often criticized for their environmental impact. This controversy highlights the growing environmental and transparency concerns in projects led by Chinese enterprises in the country. Zambia also owes $4 billion in debt to Beijing. After defaulting on payments in 2020, Zambia had to restructure loans from China and other countries. According to meeting records from MCC Group's Zambia subsidiary, its chairman, Zhang Pei-wen, met with Zambian government ministers and apologized for the asset leak. However, the apology has been met with dissatisfaction from Zambia's industry and the public. The Zambian government initially tried to downplay the threat, but later acknowledged that dangerous levels of heavy metals were found in some water samples. Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema described the incident as a crisis. Authorities quickly deployed the Air Force to spread lime and neutralize the contamination. However, in August, the U.S. Embassy in Zambia still warned that dangerous and carcinogenic substances were detected in the local environment, advising U.S. personnel to evacuate areas near the mine. Western companies usually employ more environmentally friendly methods and are more easily accepted by local communities. In contrast, Chinese companies operating mines overseas have faced numerous issues. Independent commentator Xu Ke believes that this incident marks a significant move by the Zambian public to hold Chinese state-owned enterprises accountable. He believes such claims will become increasingly common in countries involved in the Belt and Road Initiative. This suggests that, even if a country's government is pro-China, the local public can no longer tolerate the situation. The Chinese Communist Party's Belt and Road infrastructure projects have been plagued with negative reports in recent years. One rare incident of government claims occurred recently in Ecuador, where a major hydropower project, the Coca-Codo Sinclair Dam, was found to have significant structural defects. The Chinese state-owned enterprise responsible for the project was required to pay $400 million in compensation. This news was recently confirmed by the Ecuadorian government, although the CCP has refrained from publicly acknowledging the scandal. Ecuador's Minister of Economy and Finance, Serija Moya, revealed in a recent interview that Ecuador's negotiations with China had yielded important results, and that China's state-owned company, Power China, would compensate the Ecuadorian government $400 million. According to Argentine online media Infobay, the Coca-Codo Sinclair hydropower project not only caused corporate-level losses, but also resulted in a loss of revenue for the country. Ecuador did not accept a guarantee as compensation, but instead demanded direct national compensation. Canadian-Chinese senior commentator Sheng Xue stated that Ecuador's demand for $400 million from a Chinese company marks a crisis for the CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. In the past, many countries, although aware of the corrupt contracts and substandard projects promoted by China, were reluctant to take action. But Ecuador has set a precedent, and other countries may be inspired to follow suit, potentially leading to a global claims database. The Belt and Road Initiative will transform from a diplomatic tool for the CCP to a collection of global claims. Sheng Xue also noted that the Belt and Road Initiative is fundamentally about using money and projects to buy off politicians. Or when political instability arises, new governments often seek to clear up corruption linked to the CCP. The CCP can no longer rely on infrastructure projects to win support. Instead, it will have to constantly pay for corruption and substandard construction scandals, which will be a fatal blow to its finances and international image. Last year, the roof of the Novi Sad train station in Serbia collapsed during its renovation, resulting in 16 deaths and sparking the largest anti-government protests in Serbia in decades. On August 1st this year, Serbia arrested several individuals, including the former Minister of Infrastructure, for allegedly issuing false invoices, leading to a national loss of $115.6 million and allowing the Chinese state-owned enterprises involved to illegally profit $18.8 million. The Chinese companies involved were China Railway International Group and China Communications Construction Company, working as a joint venture. The safety incident at the Novi Sad station was just the tipping point. In addition to the Novi Sad to Hungary border rail modernization project, these two companies are responsible for at least 6 other infrastructure projects in Serbia. Nemanja Nenadic, the project director for Transparency Serbia, pointed out that this is the first time prosecutors have publicly launched an investigation into corruption in large infrastructure projects, calling it a positive sign. The organization has long criticized the lack of transparency in China-Serbia cooperation projects, which are often based on intergovernmental agreements and signed without bidding processes. Stefan Vladislavljev, the director of responsible social projects at the BFPE Foundation, said whether Chinese contractors and subcontractors will face legal consequences depends on the progress of the investigation, and results may only come after the projects are completed. Serbia is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative and the Central and Eastern European Cooperation Mechanism. Infrastructure projects are the heart of the economic relationship between the two countries. Since the Serbian Progressive Party came to power in 2012, cooperation between China and Serbia has deepened significantly. However, this strengthened relationship has drawn criticism and warnings from the EU and the US. The anger of the Serbian public remains unresolved. On September 1st, the country saw another massive anti-government demonstration, with tens of thousands of people taking to the streets in Belgrade and several other cities. They called for President Aleksandar Vučić to step down and demanded early elections. The police set up tight security around the presidential palace, and the situation remained tense. The protest on September 1st also served to mourn the victims. The protest, initiated by high school and university students, took place in front of the old train station in Belgrade, where 16 students held white roses and read the names of the deceased one by one. The protest spread beyond the capital to other cities. Protesters are demanding a thorough investigation into the cause of the accident, the criminal prosecution of the officials involved, and a guarantee of press freedom. They accuse the government of using state machinery to suppress dissent, interfere with the media, and even condone organized crime. Sheng Xue remarked that it seems that corruption in Chinese projects is no longer just an economic risk, but is evolving into a political crisis. With China's economy continuing to worsen, the country can no longer afford to spend recklessly as it did in the past. In the future, the Belt and Road Initiative can only survive on old debts, which are increasingly being held accountable. The CCP's traditional model of buying off small countries is collapsing. What used to be mega projects have become mega burdens, which could eventually lead to diplomatic isolation and a debt crisis. Chinese companies involved in multiple Belt and Road projects in Latin America have also faced allegations of fraud, environmental violations, and labor rights abuses. Many have been required to pay compensation. In April of this year, China State Construction Engineering Corporation's subsidiary, CCA, was found in breach of contract by a New York court due to their unfinished Bahamar project in the Bahamas. CCA was ordered to pay $1.6 billion in compensation to the developer, BML, which includes BML's $845 million investment and interest accrued since May 2014. Following the ruling, BML stated that the total compensation amount now exceeds $1.7 billion US. According to the National Law Review, the case involved CCA misappropriating subcontractor funds and intentionally delaying construction, which ultimately led to the project's collapse. The New York court's ruling emphasized that the contractor's actions in the project's failure were undoubtedly fraudulent, with the goal of enriching themselves and ensuring Chinese interests. Last year, China State Construction Engineering Corporation was also investigated by the World Bank. The incident was over a $230 million road project in Bolivia. The company was accused of forcing residents to sign unfair land acquisition agreements at excessively low prices. The housing that was promised instead was found uninhabitable. Additionally, the project caused water contamination, wage arrears, lack of insurance, and inadequate protection for workers. The Chinese Communist Party's Belt and Road Initiative not only manifests in infrastructure projects, but also increasingly extends into business, technology, and security gray areas. A report from Costa Rica revealed that some Chinese communities are involved in illegal gambling, cryptocurrency trading, and money laundering activities. The closed nature of Chinese businesses and communities makes it difficult for local law enforcement to penetrate these activities. In El Salvador, China has invested $500 million in the new National Football Stadium, which is expected to be completed by mid-2027 and will hold 50,000 spectators. Located in Antigua Cuscatlan, the stadium is referred to as China's gift and is part of a broader infrastructure aid package that China promised after establishing diplomatic relations with El Salvador in 2018. However, observers note that this project is the latest example of Beijing's gift diplomacy. Through so-called free aid, China exports infrastructure while deepening its geopolitical influence in Central America. Baso Indenze, a professor of political science and international relations at the University of Johannesburg, points out that China's aid often blurs the lines between loans, investment, and aid with no unified transparency standards, making it difficult for civil society and analysts to assess the costs. On August 31st and September 1st, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization held a summit in Tianjin. CCP leader Xi Jinping again made grand promises, attempting to court SCO member states, primarily developing countries. Xi announced that China plans to implement 100 small but beautiful livelihood projects in member countries, offering 2 billion yuan in aid. Additionally, China will provide 10 billion yuan in loans to bank consortium members over the next 3 years. Xi also stated that the number of Shanghai Cooperation Organization scholarships would double starting next year. While the Chinese internet, tightly controlled by the government, showed no backlash, many Chinese netizens who use VPNs took to X to criticize the CCP. One person said, "The Chinese people are suffering. Migrant workers are owed wages. People's pensions are shrinking. Disaster victims are not receiving aid, yet we're forced to watch as our hard-earned money flows out of the country." However, Chinese affairs expert Yue Shan pointed out that while the CCP has long used large trade surpluses and money diplomacy to win over smaller countries, China's shrinking economy now makes it difficult to continue offering these benefits. Recent events, like the extravagant military parade, have drained finances, while local governments are heavily in debt, businesses are closing in large numbers, and widespread unemployment is rising. The collapse of CCP rule may come sooner than expected.